Hi, my name is Preeti and I'm a knitter based in Toronto. Today I'm going to talk all about socks. So last year I decided to get into sock making. I heard all about it, sounded fun. I was curious and wanted to expand my skill set. So I decided to invest in some sock yarn and to buy 2.25 millimeter needles to start and just jump right in. And what I did was make the Stella Socks. So the Stella Socks is a pattern that's free on Ravelry, and it's got this beautiful four row repeat. Ugh, I hope it's 4. And it goes, I made it according to the pattern, so it's actually quite long. And honestly, and it's got this twisted rib cuff, and it's got this slip stitch heel. I honestly think as a first time sock knitter, this pattern did work with a few additional resources. So one resource that I used was the Handmade by Florence YouTube channel. She has a video on how to make socks. She has a sock pattern and she walks you through how to make the sock at the various major steps, and it's top down, and the one that she does is top down too. And I referenced it particularly for the heel because that part I was a little bit confused about how it works. So I highly recommend that video, and ever since I made those this pair of socks, I've always kind of gone back to check her video just to kind of remind myself how it works. So in terms of resources, I know there are a lot out there. There's like the Crazy Sock Lady vanilla sock videos. I'm sure those are good too, but I just kind of tend to go to the Handmade by Florence one. But yeah, this sock pattern is actually, like I said, really easy, and I actually made both. That's not the case for the next pair or the one after that I'm going to show you, but they are quite warm, and I just would say you don't have to follow the pattern exactly and make it this tall. Like the leg part, you can probably just start here. But yeah, I really recommend the Stella sock pattern because it's very simple. The design is really, really nice, and it's free, and there are online resources that can help you figure it out. So yeah, to reiterate, I highly recommend the Stella Socks on Ravelry. And look at that beautiful lace pattern. So then I decided to make a pair of the Ruffle Socks by Petite Knit. And I had a funky yarn that I bought. It's called Cascade Heritage Print. And the Petite Knit Ruffle Socks are made on 2.5 millimeter needles. And so I decided to go out and get 2.5 millimeter needles. And the way that the sock is constructed is you start off with like a ton of stitches that you cast on, and then you just do there's like a rapid decrease that creates this ruffle effect. And then eventually you knit stockinette for a bit, and then you tack it down to itself. I wonder if you can see it here. I don't know. But it gets tacked down, so you get this little cuff. Sorry, there are loose ends, and I just wear it as is, as you can tell. And then the rest of it's quite easy. You just kind of knit down. Except she does not do like that typical slip stitch heel. It's she does a short row heel, and I know there's some kind of mixed thoughts about the short row heel because yeah, you do get a bit of a hole there that you've got to manage, and it doesn't feel as reinforced as say the slip stitch heel. I hope you can tell. But I still think it suits the vibe, like this this German short row heel. So I would still do the German short row heel, even though it's like kind of not the preferred type of heel that a lot of people like. And then you just kind of do basic cast off, and it's knit top down. So I do recommend the Ruffle Socks, but I wouldn't make it as your first sock, just because the ruffle part is hard on the hands and it's hard to do. But maybe give yourself a sock pair or two, and then I would definitely give it a go. And you know, you don't have to necessarily make it in this funky pattern. I had the sock yarn and I wanted to make it, and so I just thought, what the heck, just try it. So that's what I did. And yeah, I actually made 2. So that's my second pair. I then made my way over to my local yarn store, where I saw that they had a closing sale, and they had a bunch of Briggs & Little Durasport, like their sock yarn, which has a component of nylon in addition to their wool. And so I decided to buy it, and I made these Mountain Walk sock chunky. And this is a pattern handmade by Florence. And it's quite straightforward. It's knit on 3mm needles. It's got this cool cable pattern all the way throughout, with a bit of like kind of ribbing. So the cable is mixed in with the ribbing, and they're faux cables, which I don't know if I mentioned, but I actually prefer real cables over faux cables. I think they kind of hurt. And then it goes all the way down to the toe. Can you see that? And then you've got the slip stitch heel that I was talking about. And yeah, it's quite durable, these socks. So they're chunky, so they're great for the winter. They can fit under boots if you've got enough space, or you can just wear them around the house. And I did make a caution that when you wear hand knit socks and your floors are a bit slippery, you might experience a fall or two, and I hope not, but I did experience a fall. I did slip, and so it did make me kind of worry about gifting socks without a heads up. But yeah, I do recommend the Mountain Chunky. I do think it's beginner friendly, and the fact that it's knit on 3mm needles makes it a little bit more of a quick knit. But I have to say that like the second sock syndrome is so real, and getting that motivation to make that second sock is just really hard. But you know, I managed to do it for 4 pairs. But I have 1 pair that has held me up from making more socks, because I'm like not allowing myself to knit more socks until I make the second pair. But I don't know if I just need to get over it. In fact, I'm going to show you that one lonely pair right now. All right, so this is the Erica sock that you can find in the 52 weeks of socks. And yeah, I have a loose string in every one of my socks. I just refuse to deal with it. Anyway, so this is a pair, like I said, well, I just have 1, but this is a sock pattern from the 52 weeks of socks, the first one. And it's got this beautiful leaf pattern, and it's got like, there's like 3 leaves going on, and the cabling of them doesn't always happen at the same row. Like this guy is not necessarily aligned with these, from what I remember, and I found that frustrating. So this is not the easiest pattern. It's also not the hardest, but it is, you know, it's a little bit more complex. I remember knitting it on a Via Rail train and just living my best life. I did get quite a bit done on the train, but I couldn't get motivated to make the rest of it. But I do really, really like this sock. And then you've got your heel, your basic heel. And I learned from my lesson from before, where I decided to not make the leg so long, and you've just got just a basic rib. And it's quite beautiful, but alas, it does not have its pair, so it has not been worn. And it is the reason why I haven't knit any more socks, because I need to get the motivation to make its pair. But you know, I do like it. Maybe this will be the motivation. I need to just cast it on. All right, I have one more pair to show you. Okay, so I made, these aren't exactly socks. These are slippers. These are they're called the Doble Tofler. They're a felted slipper pattern by Sadness Garn, and it's a free pattern by Sadness Garn. They have now translated to English. It used to not be in English, but now it is. And you can really just Google felted slipper socks Sadness Garn and you'll probably find it. There are a lot of resources online that I highly recommend that you check out because the directions in the pattern are really slim. So there is a podcast channel called Two Pearls in a Pod, and one of them makes a dedicated video on how like her process of making the slippers, and so I would definitely follow that. In addition, just even if you just kind of Google on YouTube any video tutorials on people making the sock, I would just watch it because the one thing is I'm knitting the slipper from top up. Oh, sorry, by doing a Turkish cast on or a Judy's Magic cast on. I would definitely do that. Other instructions are maybe you don't, or kind of comments or feedback from other people are the height, if I remember, or the depth. You might, it's quite deep, and so you might want to adjust that. And what else? Oh, just like the felting. I don't think the pattern tells you how to felt at all. So that's where the Two Pearls in a Pod video is really helpful because she shows her process of felting in the washing machine. And luckily I was able to felt it without a problem. Oh, and the other feedback or the kind of pointer I would give is fold it. So you kind of make these 2 feet and then one foot gets folded into the other in order to create this double casing. It's double. There's 2 linings. There's like, it's double, you know what I mean? And so I think the instructions say just kind of felt it, and I think a lot of people tend to felt it without folding it in first. But I think one of the YouTubers, they tell you to fold it in and then felt it. And that's what I did. And I think that's why it kind of worked out really well. Because I think once you felt it and then you try to shape it after, it's going to be really hard. Another thing is when you take it out of the washing machine and it's now you're just letting it dry, to put your feet in it, not when it's, make sure it's not soaking wet so you're not uncomfortable, but if you want to put your foot in to help shape it or mold it to your foot, that's a really good idea, so that while it's drying, it's conforming to your foot, it's kind of taking its shape, and so then you'll get a more snug fit. I use the yarn that it recommends it's Sadness Garn Fritteds Garn. It's this pretty bulky weight yarn that you can get that was at my local yarn store, which was on sale. So I picked up 2 or 3 balls. Again, go on Ravelry and see what people typically, how many balls they typically use, because the pattern, I think I didn't end up using the same amount as the pattern. I just kind of looked to see what the average of what number of balls people were using for my size. So do that. So definitely, like with this pattern, yay that it's free, but honestly it doesn't have a lot of info. You're gonna have to, if you're kind of new to knitting or you're not sure how it's gonna go, I would definitely take the time to check Ravelry and check other online resources just to see what people experience, like what kind of tips they have to offer before making it. But it's just such a nice, I did wear it a lot in the winter. It's really good. But yeah, I experienced some slipperiness. It's kind of nice to just wear when you're sitting. If you're not like walking around too much, you don't want to take that chance, because falls are a real thing. Like they are dangerous, and you don't want to experience that. So yeah, that's my feedback on socks. In terms of when I started my journey of sock knitting, one of the things I did was, because I was kind of intimidated by socks, I started with 2.25 millimeter needles, and I do magic loop. So I have like an 80 centimeter long thing, and I'm okay with magic loop. So I prefer that. I bought just, sock yarn that had wool and nylon content. The Cascade Heritage print, the one that I use for my Ruffle Socks, I used, that's a superwash yarn, and it is very superwash feeling, like it's quite slippery. And I used 2.5 millimeter needles for that, just because that's what the pattern asked for, and I was okay with picking up a pair of 2.5 millimeter needles. But I think when you're really starting out, try the typical 2.25 millimeter, and if you're comfortable with it, you do magic loop, because I find magic loop for socks quite satisfying and comfortable. And definitely give it a go. Like, I think socks are practical. You do wear socks all the time. Maybe in the summer you're not wearing woolen socks, but in the winter or colder weather, you probably would be. The nice thing about woolen socks is, from what I hear, they don't need to be washed as often as like regular store-bought socks, like cotton socks, because they have some properties that make it like maybe a little bit more antimicrobial, and I don't know that for a fact. But obviously wash your socks based on like how dirty they are and smelly they are. But I do find that they are a little bit more resistant to kind of the typical smells or things like that. I think this year, like I said, the reason why I haven't been making as many socks is because I, number one, am really hung up over that one sock that needs its pair. And I keep telling myself to not knit anything until that's done. I could also just accept that sock will get done at some point, or maybe it won't get done, and to just go ahead and cast on other socks. Number two, the reason why I haven't been knitting too many socks this year is because my knitting time has gone down, and so I really want to prioritize knitting on garments. And so I think, like, if the biggest bang for my buck is to, create a garment that it's just makes more sense to me than knitting socks. I think if I had a little bit more time, I would consider that. And I feel maybe like this year I've done it now. So I'm kind of trying to explore different types of things. So this year I knit a blanket, and I'm actually working on another blanket. So I think I'm just a little bit more interested in trying new things. And I also started color work this year. So because this is like a fun journey, I think I've tackled the socks. I'm pretty confident in it. Now I want to tackle other things. And so that's why I really haven't made too many socks this year. But I do highly recommend it. It is fun. I like working with smaller needles, and I like magic loop. So that, for me, those make the project really fun. And I wear socks all the time, so they are not going to go to waste. So there you have it. That's everything I have to say about sock knitting. I hope you found this enjoyable. I hope you take a look at some of the resources that I recommended. And if you have any fun sock patterns that you really like, or you think other people might be curious about, please do leave it in the comment section below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.